Hey, David, I just finished watching your podcast on BE, behavioral euthanasia. At the end of the podcast, you asked if anyone has a story to share it with you. So here is the story of my wife and I owning Baxter. We rescued Baxter at 8 months old from a pet store, from a pet rescue. Baxter was set to be euthanized in the next week if he did not find a family. I saw this dog, and I don't know what it was, but that dog was my dog. He was meant to come home with us and be ours. That's just what needed to happen. At this time, we had a pity mix breed dog at home with us. Just thought I would add that in. The rescue had little info on this dog. Said good with kids and other dogs, and that's it. We bring him home and introduce the dogs together. They had their moments, but we were able to shut everything down, and things turned out pretty good, considering one is a pity and Baxter was an American Bulldog mix. We introduced my youngest son to Baxter as soon as we got home. The post for the dog said good with kids. My son was standing in front of Baxter, and that was sitting down, and I instantly saw a slight tweak in his body language. Just before I could get between them, Baxter lunged at my son. That was it. This dog was going back. Everyone said that you have to give the dog a chance. He's in a new place with new people, probably scared, whatever. We keep him, but we are working with a trainer. Sign him up for training, and it went so-so. I had a lot of info presented to me, which was great, but I just knew that this trainer wasn't for Baxter. We had a series of lunges while on walks against people and other dogs. Keep in mind, the dog that I have at home is Baxter's best friend. They had their times, but we never worried about them being together. They were both crated and separated when we were out at work and never a big issue. So we searched for a trainer, and she was known for working with behavioral issues. Had her come to the house, and both dogs were not inviting. She did a few things with Baxter to see how he did, and at first it was good. Then I saw that slight tweak. I wish I could explain what it was. It wasn't an actual movement. It was just something I knew was going to happen. Baxter was standing by her side, and she applied very little pressure on his leash to get him to sit. He did, then jumped and bit her in the hand. I was freaked out and thought, fuck, this dog is crazy, at the drop of a hat, etc. She said no, he's not bad. He just needs work. We agreed to stay and train for both dogs, and she came a few days later and picked both dogs up and took them to her facility. We went after the week, and she showed us with us in placing the dogs, and we knew Baxter had to be tied and placed if friends were over, and we e-collar trained him. I walked with a muzzle on, which oddly enough was like a security blanket for him. Time went on, and like you, we had 5 instances where Baxter showed his aggression, only because we got sloppy and made mistakes. This dog was a loving, big dog and just wanted to be around us. I have never met a dog that wanted to work as bad as he did. It was like he knew his anxiety and wanted to work through it with us, but would eventually slip back into it. Last week, I was getting home from a week-long work trip, and all I wanted was to see the dogs, give them treats, and feel normal after being away. We got home, and our daughter was there, which was no big deal. My wife had Baxter on his tie, and me not even thinking because our daughter had been in the house a million times with Baxter, and he had never reacted to family, I let him off. We ran around the house. The dogs had their treats, and what I thought was Baxter getting on the couch for a pet or cuddle turned into him attacking our daughter. This was not a bite and retreat and feel bad. This was an attack to not let go. I picked the dog off of my daughter and put him away. After this, we knew something had to be done. We thought we could build a large kennel enclosure for him. Everything to keep this dog. We called our trainer and told her what happened. She said, I can't make the decision for you, but all I could say is you can't account for 100% of his actions and our slip-ups. We decided to euthanize him. Our vet is so good, they knew Baxter and would make after-hours appointments for us, or if he was coming in during regular hours, they had a room ready for him. They knew he was coming in muzzled and did a fantastic job at always keeping him calm. So leading up to the appointment, we spent his last 2 days playing and running outside and eating his favorite meals. He would be his loving self and melt into us. On the way to the vet, we stopped in a farmer's field, and he just got to be completely free for one of the handful of times in his life. After that, we could never be prepared for what took place after. The grief, the questions of did we do the right thing, We could have done more for him. That was harder than actually having Baxter at home with us. Baxter has only been gone a few days, and I frantically look for videos or anything to make me feel better about our decision. I don't know if this is Baxter showing me it's okay, but I found your podcast and your story is so close to ours, I know we did the right thing. Like you said, there are way more stories out there that are worse than ours. I know in my heart he is not suffering from his own head anymore, and we don't have to worry about keeping him and others safe. I just wanted to reach out because I feel compelled to honor Baxter and his story. I'm so proud of him and want to tell everyone about him and how we lived for over 6 years and that we worked with him and he worked with us. He wasn't the stereotypical bully breed that is out to attack. He was a big suck. I don't know if that's the right word or not. If I could just help the dog owner with his story, I would be so proud that he is helping people by his life and story. Thanks so much for all you do for people and their dogs and just want to work together. I can't say thank you enough for making the podcast 2 years ago. 2 years, there we go. I am slowly making my peace with this and can tell you that you just helped get over one huge hurdle. Keep up what you do and thank you.
Wow. That's
a nice
awesome.
email, guys.
Yeah, that was a great email. And, I mean, what do you say? They had the dog for about 6 years?
Yeah, sounds like it.
I mean, you gave that dog a great life, you know? And they did everything right and perfect, you know? But sometimes, like...
Well, right and...
Go ahead.
Right and perfect is...
subjective.
Yeah, it's subjective because it's like they did everything right and perfect from the standpoint of they recognized a problem right away. Mm-hmm. They hired a trainer right away. They realized that trainer wasn't a good fit. They found another trainer. Mm-hmm. They sent him to training. They clearly implemented all this management along the way, right? They were successfully able to, it sounds like for almost 6 years, if I'm reading this email correctly, not have any incidents. But maybe they did. He said they had 5 incidents. He didn't get into detail with all of them, obviously. But regardless, they clearly made an effort to get past the problem, right? Yeah. So this is where you get into what we were talking about in the last episode or something, like, you know, the owner guilting and like, you know, this and that. It's like, you know, we could say all day long, like we could pick stuff like this apart and be like, oh God, like, well, you shouldn't have done this. And like, this is a big red flag. And this is, you know what I mean? Like we could do that all day long. But in the end of the day, emails like this highlight, especially for the people that are doing behavioral modification work, right? Training dogs that have serious behavioral issues, that these are the kinds of people that are our clients, people that want to do best by their dog, but they're dog owners. Yep. They're not dog trainers, right? And even all of us as dog trainers, I am a dog trainer, but with my dogs, though I could channel more of that dog trainer mentality in my day-to-day than a lot of people can, I am still a dog owner at heart.
Yeah.
And that means that we are going to act like dog owners sometimes. And that means not always being a fucking dog trainer. Slipping up sometimes. Doing things you technically shouldn't do. Right? So it's hard because like there's a lot of trainers out there that would read this. Like let's say that they reached out to a trainer. Like I'm very happy that it sounds like when they reached out to their trainer, that trainer said, you know, I can't make the decision for you, but all I could say is that you can't account for 100% of his actions and our little slip-ups.
Yep.
That's 100% true. I can't make this is what I tell my clients too that are in this situation. I can't make the choice for you, but you have to weigh out the risk to reward, right? Like what is your risk tolerance? What could happen if something goes wrong? And is that a risk you're willing to take with your dog?
Yeah.
You know? Whether it's something like the dog biting somebody, whether it's something like the dog going after another dog, whether it's something like, you know, the dog just not listening when you take them off leash somewhere, right? Like we can't make the decisions for you, but there are going to be times you can't account for 100% of things.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm really glad that they had a trainer that would not sugarcoat it and say things. It's like,
and where I was getting with that is like, there's a lot of trainers that would read that and their first thought would go to like, well, you screwed this up and 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 like make them feel like shitty over it instead of just being like, like you clearly put in your all, but like as time goes on and we get comfortable, we get complacent with things and we slip with things. And like, that's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
Right. It's such a tough topic, you know, because it's like, there's so much hope for some dogs, right? And I think I talked about this in the actual episode, right, that we did. Like, there are so many dogs that are not that bad, and they do not need to be put down, right? Or in our opinion, they do not need to put down, right? And we could help work through them. But there are also some where it's just like, God, like, I know we want to help the dog, right? But like, the dog probably should have been put down before even going into the home, right? Like this situation, like they adopted him and they said the day they brought him home, he lunged and tried to bite their son. And this rescue told them, dog's good with people and other dogs, right? There is absolutely no chance, unless they had this dog in their care for like one day, right? And like the dog was just shut down that entire day, that like they didn't see any problems. But even then, like if the dog is so shut down, you're not seeing the problems, like as a rescue organization, I would not take that as a true assessment of who the dog is.
Right.
Right. But like, you can't tell me that over the whole time the rescue had him, that they truly never saw any problems, you know? I don't know, you know? So it's tough, man, you know? And man, it's like, I don't remember what podcast episode it was. We were talking to somebody else. Maybe it was, I don't know, maybe it was Dylan up in Canada. I think it might have been, where we were talking about like solving the crisis of like behavioral problems with dogs. It's like, goddamn, it's like, it's so, you know, it's so controversial of a take. And I don't even know if I fully believe this take, but like if rescues just like had this obligation to, at the first sign of any sort of aggression, right? Anything. I'm not even talking bite, because like a lot of them hold it to bite. Like if the dog has a bite on their record, they'll put them down, right? Not all of them, but some of them, you know? If at any sign of aggression, right? Like the actual intent for the dog to do harm, they just put these dogs down and focused all their resources into the good dogs. God, I might put myself out of fucking business, but like, you know, like, I don't know, you know, it's like, it'd be very interesting to see like what happened, you know, in that world. Because this is what happens is like, you know, every rescue page you go to, like, they're not posting about the easy dogs. You know what I mean? Like every post you see is like trying to get donations to help either a dog with behavioral issues or to help a dog with like serious medical issues. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Not everybody is going to try their best like this family did. You know, that's the thing. Like they got 6 years with the dog because they literally took every single step to make it work.
The other thing too is like in this email, he said, you know, the first sign that he saw that the dog went after his son, he said, that's it. Dog needs to go back. Yeah. He said that at the beginning, which is the logical right thing to say. You know what I mean? Like that is what you should do as a parent. Like if the dog, you get to bring this dog into your house, that I don't even have a fucking emotional attachment to this dog yet, but like, no, you try and bite my son, like you're not going to stay here. Yeah. Right. Like, especially given that like his son wasn't really doing anything stupid, it sounds like, that put him in that position to begin with. Then he probably went to go take the dog back and the shelter gave him a fucking hard time about it. Yeah. You know, and listen, I always do this, right? Like, I'm making assumptions here, but like I've seen it so many times before that like I would just, if I had to put money on what happened, I would say that's probably what happened.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it sounds like for sure.
It just like really like, and I'm brainstorming and talking out loud here, but it's like sometimes when I have these conversations and speak out loud about this stuff, like my brain just constantly goes back to like, damn, like this all kind of starts with the shelters. You know, it doesn't all say it's not, I'm not blaming every shelter out there, but it does start with shelters taking a much more responsible approach to the dogs that they're homing out, you know, and what they do with them, you know, and what they put their resources into. Because I'll tell you, there's probably very few easy dogs that rescues have needed to put thousands and thousands of dollars into. Yeah. Very few, right? But there's a lot of dogs that probably behaviorally were just too far gone that wound up getting put down, or dogs with horrendous medical conditions that, you know, have cost rescues thousands of dollars, and then just like people weren't able to upkeep with the medical expenses once they were homed out, or people weren't able to handle the behavioral issues once they were homed out, that wound up getting put down, where you're just like pouring that money down the drain, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
And then, you know, past just the financial side of things, it's like you're sending dogs home that are hurting people, you know, like there's so many situations where people get lucky, but it's like, damn, like, you know, this situation, his son got lunged at, son was okay though, right? Second situation, daughter got like attacked by this dog. Right?
Could have been terrible.
Yeah. And God, like there's another, I don't remember what podcast we talked about this in, but it's like, again, I could look at this and based on the email, I could point out probably 4 or 5 different places where I was like, oh, well, this is a little bit of a, I don't even want to say red flag, but like, it's a little bit of a flag that like, maybe you shouldn't have done this. Maybe things would have been a little better if you didn't do this or you did this or whatever it may be. But like at the same time, there are also a lot of dogs out there that you could run the same exact life. Like if you looked at like the life somebody lives with their dog, like a program, like you would program something on a computer, right? And then you plug something into it. If you take this person's whole life of the 6 years they owned this dog and everything they did every day with the dog over those 6 years, and you just plug in a different dog into that, there are just so many dogs out there that you plug them into this type of lifestyle, and you would never run into the problems that you ran into.
Yeah. But like you said earlier, just dog owners,
Yeah.
You can't expect them to do everything perfect.